As we know, ladies and gentlemen, there were other suspicious people within that area. And this is the reason why people believe that Christian Brueckner is just a fool guy. No evidence to prove that he did anything, but for whatever reason, their names are not being linked to this, although one of them is sitting in jail right now for the same type of crimes.
Did you kidnap and kill Madeleine McCann?
Mr. Brueckner, did you kill Madeleine McCann? Hey, Mr. Brueckner.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back again, and I hope every single one of you are doing well. We're about to dive into a very interesting topic, which most of you guys will be familiar with. It's the Madeleine McCann case, because Madeleine McCann is back in the headlines. One of the most mysterious cases of the 21st century. It's never really left the headlines, let's be totally honest. As we do know, there's been multiple theories, multiple different opinions, multiple different conspiracies, but ultimately nothing's come to fruition. Nothing has been proven. Madeleine hasn't been found. No real evidence to prove that the parents have done anything to Madeleine at this point, although people have their suspicions and their opinions. So what's actually going on here? Because it does feel like we're on a roller coaster when it comes to the Madeleine McCann investigation, trying to understand what's happened, where she is, who the suspects are, what the evidence is. Now, according to what's being said, over the last 6 months, the UK police have been doing their own investigation, secretly, their own secret investigation. Now, Christian Brueckner, most of you guys will be familiar with him. This is, for some reason, the #1 suspect. What we're gonna do in today's video is we're gonna look at all of the evidence, all of the public evidence that they have on Christian Brueckner, the reasons as to why they believe he is the perpetrator behind the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. At this point, it seems that the UK police are compelled to believe that Christian Brueckner is the man that they are looking for. They have enough evidence to charge him. But there are stumbling blocks. Christian Brueckner's legal team, who are based in Germany, they are saying to the UK police, well, if you've got evidence that can prove Christian has done anything in regards to the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, then please forward it over to the German police. Bearing in mind, Christian was recently acquitted in a German court of some wild allegations, which we're gonna also touch on in this video. I mean, one of the main points I wanna get across in this video is trying to understand why the UK police deem Christian Brueckner as the main suspect. Now, we're not privy to all of the evidence, or all of the evidence they claim they now have. We just have things that have been put in the public domain through the mainstream media.
German officials say that the main suspect in the case, Christian Brueckner, cannot be brought to Britain for trial because of Brexit and Germany's constitution.
Realistically, is it likely to happen? I do have my doubts, which is such a shame for Madeleine's parents, Kate and Jerry, because obviously they want some closure. They want to try and know what happened to their daughter. Also, his name has cropped up several times in this investigation, most notably a guy called Helge Busching, who was a friend of his and who rang Scotland Yard and tipped them off about him. You know, if it was going to a European country, Spain, France, Italy, wherever, he said absolutely no problem at all. In fact, he then told me that they had extradited people to Spain only recently from his jurisdiction, his legal jurisdiction. But he said with the UK, it would be a major hurdle. You need, as you probably are aware, an arrest warrant. And to have an arrest warrant, you need evidence. And he says that they have shared their evidence with Scotland Yard, and Scotland Yard have shared what they have with the Germans, and he says it's just not strong enough to bring a case.
So this is telling, because this tells us the evidence that the UK police claim they have isn't strong enough. It isn't strong enough and doesn't compel the German police to want to help extradite Christian Brueckner to the UK. This begs the question, are they just scraping the bottom of the barrel here, or do they have compelling evidence that proves Christian Brueckner had something to do with the disappearance of Madeleine McCann?
I am damn sure that Madeleine McCann was not abducted.
Wow. What do you think happened then?
Portuguese police believed that what was possibly, well, they believed that she died in the apartment, first of all. Very high-ranking cadaver and blood dogs were sent into the apartment. And these were not regulars. These belonged to Martin Grime, who was a top-of-the-range man from, I think, North Yorkshire Police, who has been used in testimonies in the state, and people have been convicted without bodies being found based on the testimony of him and his work. So it was his dogs that went in. And these dogs, they alerted to blood spats behind the sofa, with a high DNA allele count that was related, it would appear, to Madeleine. These dogs alerted only in the apartment where Madeleine was reported missing. in a hire car that McCann's hired after Madeleine was reported missing in the further holiday home that they were moved to when apartment 5A was made a crime scene. Madeleine's cuddly toy and a key fob belonging to the McCanns. These dogs were also sent to the apartments of all the other people who were on the holiday and didn't alert once. So those dogs only alerted in the apartment when Madeleine went missing. And what I think is highly possible that happened, because our Portuguese police believe that it's highly likely that when Jerry McCann came in around 9:15 and he went out the apartment and he was having a conversation with a BBC producer outside the window who was also on holiday, and Madeleine woke up, possibly in a daze because she might have been having some sort of, Calpol or whatever, woke up in a daze, got up on the back of the sofa, looked out of the window, fell down the back of the sofa, cracked her head open on the stone floor. And that is what is believed happened. And that was the case that was archived by the Portuguese police. And with the archiving of that, Kate and Jerry McCann no longer were arguidos, but Kate and Jerry McCann, and the Supreme Court said this, Kate and Jerry McCann have not been cleared.
So if they had just called the police and said, with just the worst accidents just happened, our kid fell off the sofa.
But who knows how any of us would react in a situation like that.
I mean, that's a very interesting take. A massive shout out to Sonia Poulton. She invited me on her show a few months back. The points that she was making there, I remember reading it. I actually thought that was the narrative. It doesn't make any sense if that's what they believed based on the evidence and based on the work that they'd done, why they never followed through with it. Now, 20 years later, there is still nothing other than fingers being pointed at Christian Brueckner, and the evidence isn't strong enough for the German police to put together a case. So what are we doing? What are we talking about? So I'm reading here that the German prosecutors named him as their main suspect in the Madeleine McCann disappearance, and this is back in 2020. However, he was never charged. Prosecutors had reportedly said they believe Madeleine is dead and they believe he is responsible, but couldn't prove it, more or less. There's no evidence, and as of 2026, that still appears to be the position. The same position. The German police have no evidence to prove that he was involved in the abduction or the disappearance or murder of Madeleine McCann. Although their suspicion does remain, there's nothing that they can do about it at this point because there's not enough evidence to back it. However, on the other hand, he did have other cases that were ongoing and he was acquitted of those cases back in 2024. He stood trial in Germany for several unrelated sexual offense allegations. This was aggravated rape and sexual. Sickening. They were not related to Madeleine McCann. Now, the result of these allegations, ladies and gentlemen, led to his acquittal in October of 2024. So he was a free man. The acquittal helped lead to his release from prison in September of 2025 after he finished serving his earliest sentence for a 2005 rape of a 72-year-old woman. So the prosecutors tried to appeal the acquittal. They claimed that the judge mishandled evidence. They also claimed that key witnesses were wrongly discredited and important circumstantial evidence was undervalued. Reports in early 2026 said that prosecutors were seeking to overturn the acquittal and push for a retrial on some of these unrelated sex crime charges. After he was acquitted and released, ladies and gentlemen, he did remain under heavy surveillance. I mean, we've seen some of the videos. Not only was he put on an electronic tag, but he was more or less being tracked down by all different types of media, putting microphones and cameras in his face asking if he killed Madeleine McCann. Not only has he denied his involvement, but he's also taken the advice of his legal team and more or less said nothing. I mean, prior to that, he has denied it. He's denied any involvement, but of recent, he's just not talking about it. Now let's skip to the evidence that the UK police claim they have. Now I must stress that we don't have everything. There might be something new. As far as we've been told, as far as we've just researched, the German police don't believe the evidence is strong enough. But let's find out what they've got. So the main evidence reported publicly includes Christian obviously living within 1 mile of the premises that Madeleine McCann disappeared from. But the next thing on the list is his mobile phone data. It places him near the scene. German prosecutors have said phone records place him at the area around the Ocean Club on the night Madeleine vanished. This is one of the strongest publicly referenced piece of circumstantial evidence. The next thing they have is witness testimony. A former associate of Brueckner alleges that he mentioned something to him. He basically made some form of confession. However, nothing's been followed up, and the guy saying this could just be saying it because he's delusional. We don't know. We don't know. He's got no evidence to prove that Christian said this to him. He's just saying, oh yeah, I spoke to Christian and he kind of implied that he had some involvement. Okay. But what? What did he say? What did he do? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like you literally hit a brick wall with those type of testimonies right there. The other thing that they're looking at is his criminal history involving sexual offences in the same region. Again, the 72-year-old lady. And then the last one is hard drives and items found during searches. It's alleged that there was some child imagery on there, allegedly. But searches of properties linked to Christian reportedly found hard drives and disturbing images, children's clothing, items, and other material that investigators said straightens their belief in Madeleine is dead. So whatever they discovered in Christian's house compelled them to believe that Madeleine was dead. Don't know what that could have been. Other children's clothes? Doesn't mean Madeleine's dead though, does it? Or Christian killed her. Just kind of being neutral for a minute, trying to make it make sense. However, authorities have not publicly shown direct forensic proof linking these items to Madeleine specifically. So the items that have been found, there's no proof that any of them belong to Madeleine. You know, just based on that, just based on those 5 things we've kind of discussed there. And again, this is not all of the evidence. This is just what's been published in the public. This is what we can find in the public domain. But just based on what we've heard right there, there is nothing tangible enough, nothing that can stand the test of time in court that puts Christian Brueckner behind bars for the death of Madeleine McCann or the disappearance of Madeleine McCann or the murder of Madeleine McCann. This is just all assumption with no hard evidence whatsoever. There's nothing that they've mentioned in these 5 things that connects him to this whatsoever. It can't be the area. It can't be the area because, as we know, ladies and gentlemen, there are other suspicious people within that area. Yeah, we know who they are. We know who they are. And this is the reason why people believe that Christian Brueckner is just a fool guy. Because there's no evidence to prove that he did anything. And there's other people that could be deemed as dark and heinous as Christian Brueckner, but even worse. Let's be real, they're worse, they're way worse than Christian Brueckner. Let's be real. I mean, they're all disgusting people. They all deserve to rot in a certain place. Come on, these 3 names that I'm not going to mention, we all know who they are, especially if you've been following this case. They're so much more powerful and so much more heinous than this prick. Let's just be honest and say it as it is. But for whatever reason, their names are not being linked to this, although one of them is sitting in jail right now for the same type of crimes. Oh no, we'll just leave her over there. We'll leave her. Anyway, the last thing that I wanted to mention here, prosecutors believe she is dead. So the prosecutors do believe she is dead. This is German prosecutors. The German prosecutor, Hans Christian Walters, has repeatedly said they believe Madeleine is dead and that they are confident Brueckner is responsible, but they have acknowledged the evidence is largely circumstantial. Again, it's kind of like you're just basing it on assumptions. It's insignificant. On that basis, you can't really be pointing fingers at Christian. There isn't anything really linking him to this. Nothing. Let's just say it how we see it. It's the whole reason why the German police have had to let him go. Although they believe he's fully responsible, they can't prove it. Doesn't matter what you believe. It's about what you can prove in court. And they can't prove in court that he's responsible for this. So what different evidence does the UK police have? What do they have? It'd be interesting to know. Because if it's anything that we've just run through, they're going to hit another brick wall. And Christian Brueckner is just going to be a free man. We are going to be back with more updates in regards to Madeleine McCann. We have done a few videos on Madeleine in the past. If you haven't seen them, go and check them out. Of course, it's one of the deepest and darkest rabbit holes of the 21st century. And you know we love rabbit holes over here. We love a rabbit hole over here, ladies and gentlemen. We love diving in rabbit holes. Pause. So anyway, just leave your thoughts and all your comments down below. Let me know exactly how you're feeling about what's going on right now with the UK police. Do you feel they're in a confident position and have strong enough evidence to get Christian from Germany to the UK, put him on trial and find him guilty? I mean, if they did, they'll just do it in Germany. Why would you need to bring him over to the UK? Unless you've got some dons over here that are looking to take care of him. I don't know. We'll just leave that for you lot to comment down in the comments on. Just leave all those thoughts, all of those comments down below. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe. More videos on the way. Haven't really released any videos over these past couple of days. Been a bit busy. Champions League semi-finals, all of that type of stuff. We're going to the final. Come on, big up all the Arsenal fans. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.